my name is Yvoscia, and I'm a 45-year-old transgender pansexual lesbian woman. Shortly after learning to speak as a I identified as a girl. In the early 80s, transgender people were virtually unheard of, so my family unsurprisingly convinced me I was a I did very well in school, but I really struggled making friends. I was a talented violinist who received scholarships and played in adult orchestras. I was never able to initiate conversations as a or a man. As a consequence of so much rejection, and likely the trauma caused by the rejection of my girl self, I systematically and calculatedly tanked my grades in year 7. Gradually, rather than suddenly and obviously. Pylons were 5 to 15. Several of them rugby players would leap into the air, landing on me with their knee, in my back or any other part of my body. The weakest kids would pick fights with me because I was seen as vulnerable to all. I taught a lesson or two in my life. I had 3 brothers, and even the youngest was taller than me when I was about 12. This was all while presenting as a cisgender, heteronormative. At age 7 to 13, I was incredibly uncomfortable with having a I even remember standing in the trees where we've often played in New Zealand and just feeling as though my name didn't suit me. Like it was the wrong name for me. At 15, I heard a radio piece about male and female brain patterns/behavior. I identified more strongly with female. At the age of 17, I secretly identified as a lesbian trapped in a man's body. Before, it was a Seinfeld joke. I'd never heard anything like that said at the time. I had several failed relationships, predominantly because nothing ever quite felt real. Everything I did was tainted by that feeling. And I mean, everything. I had chronic drinking problems because I couldn't escape the tainting. Throughout my adulthood, I was continually abused by women because I lacked the feelings of self-worth to consider myself deserving of better. In approximately 2018, I learned that I was attracted to. Due to always having valued human connection, I did some research. It was very gradual, but by November 2021, I had learned enough affirming language to have an epiphany. I was a trans woman. It answered virtually every weird question I'd had about my life, and somehow did not feel like a surprise. On December 17th, 2021, I ventured out on a Friday night. My makeup was done at a Sephora tutorial. I was wearing a terribly trashy outfit, and for the very first time in my life, I felt self-worth. I felt confidence without There was something else that for about 6 months I didn't even know its name. It got me through 6 months of losing my girlfriend of 5 years, virtually all of the friends I'd made over 12 years in Calgary, being abused by several landlords, enduring a roommate who claimed to be an ally but tried twice in a week to have me evicted and arrested after I cleaned his year-old filth from all common areas of the apartment. Was psychologically abused at a women's shelter to the point I had a nervous breakdown and needed hospital help. Strung up by my heels in the back of a paddy wagon and forced to urinate all over myself. I was safely transported to the hospital, where I was kicked out in the cold with no money, no ID or cards whatsoever, and grossly inadequate clothing. They provided me 1 bus ticket for hours of transit. Luckily, I had my phone so I could spend future food money on a long taxi ride. My belongings, including but not limited to a $4,000 Ernie Ball Music Man Bongo 6, were dumped into the rear garbage room of the women's shelter, and even doused in My life was then saved by a trans non-binary person in a wheelchair whom I had met and befriended in the shelter. Shortly afterwards, i.e. weeks, I was forced to relocate to another city, where I was abused by landlords and roommates until June 1st, 2023. Yes, that's less than 3 weeks ago. Approximately 1 year ago, I learnt that the one thing keeping me alive, preventing my own unaliving, through the most difficult journey of my life thus far, was gender euphoria. Because despite everything that I endured, I was finally receiving gender-affirming care. I can only, with immense anguish, imagine what my life could have been had I received such care and support from the time at which I first identified as a girl. I was 3.